Good evening. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Yes, no problem.
Hi.
Hi, Emily. Hi, Andrea. How are things?
Good.
Good, thank you.
It's good to see your face at the meeting, Denise.
Oh, yeah, we have kind of updated our policy, so
Yeah.
we're mostly not wearing masks in the office.
Does that feel weird?
It did at first. I think we're about a week in, so
Yeah.
it's starting to
more
feel more
normal now.
normal.
Yeah. And hi, is Andrea? Is that on? Yeah. Nice to meet you. I'm Emily.
Hi, Emily. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I think we're going to be the full team tonight, which will be great. Hey, Jenny, how's it going?
Good. Just trying to get myself together here.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, sorry about that. Thank you.
No, no
So is
worries.
this everyone, Denise?
Yeah, this is everybody.
Great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thinking there are no public comments, Denise.
No, we checked just a moment ago. So
Great.
no public comment.
So if everyone has a second, we can take a look at the minutes from February 8th. And then if there's a motion to approve.
I already looked at them, so I will move to approve the minutes.
Great. Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? No, all in favor? Great.
I'm so sorry. Can I ask who seconded that?
Christine?
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm excited to hear any updates on the festival rain alternative. I did mention that that discussion was happening with the board. Denise.
So we talked internally, Kathleen, Cynthia and I, about like I said, I was going to report back to them and kind of talk about the conversation we had about rain location. Kathleen brought up a really great point that this year Rosh Hashanah begins on Sunday, the 25th. So we definitely don't want to use that as a rain date for this year. That fact kind of combined with the conversation we had already. I then did a little investigation, reached out to E.O. Smith to kind of talk about what their thoughts were. Is that a viable option this year? And thankfully, the answer that we got was E.O. Smith is available for the moment, basically. So unless something comes up to change that. We did decide to move forward kind of in the same format that it was pre-pandemic. So we've reserved E.O. Smith. The locations inside are the gym, the auxiliary gym, the auditorium, the entryway, and the cafeteria. And similar to previous years before the pandemic, what I'll do is just come up with a site plan, kind of an alternate site plan. And each activity booth will receive both their regular site location and their alternative site location. So if we do need to switch, that's an option. And next year, what I would say is we can kind of look at the Saturday and Sunday dates together, just to kind of make sure. I mean, if we want to go that route and we want to have this conversation about the Sunday rain date next year, we can just kind of double check from the beginning.
Sounds good.
So I have to, oh, good, thank you. I was going to say, I know it's always so awkward. Everybody's on mute and nodding, which is great, but it's so quiet.
Quiet. Junie, did you have a comment?
No, I was just vocalizing that sounds good.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or discussion on that? It seems like, I guess the calendar kind of decided it for us this year. Great. And you usually make that call kind of the Friday before. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. The week of the event, I like to sort of check the weather daily with a larger conversation on Wednesday, bringing Public Works, kind of all the larger partners into that conversation on Wednesday. And if things are looking good, then it's just a quick check-in on Friday. If there were to be concerns that we might need to change it on Friday, we would then have a follow-up meeting Friday to really look at whether we needed to move forward. And then the cutoff, what I really love is kind of a midday cutoff. So people would hear from us by noon the day before.
Yeah. Great. Do
So
we want to
Denise-
take, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, can I just confirm if I understood that correctly then? Since I missed the 8th last month, we would be looking at the Sunday after? Is that
No, in this case, yeah, what we decided to move forward with was an indoor alternative instead of a rain date. Just because of the difficulties of the multiple weekends, that was another issue for people. So,
Okay,
So
so it would be the same
On
day.
the 24th.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
thank you for clarifying that.
no problem.
Do we want to take a look at the site plan draft that's in the packet?
So for those of you who have done the event before, this is very similar to previous years, but I want to point out two big changes. At our wrap meeting last year, we moved, or we talked about moving the site entrance to Wilbur Cross Way to make it safer for people coming on site and just to make it a little bit easier with the traffic as people are coming. So I've moved the festival site entrance to the far right on the plan. And then that star is actually the HQ booth. So that's another move. I thought moving it to an area where there's more open space might be a little bit easier with those volunteer groups coming. But I'm open to discussion. These were just my first thoughts for our draft of the site plan.
So
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
So the festival entrance, is that for people working the festival or that's for people coming to it?
Yes, so it is for participants sort of that are hosting booths or performers. And what that does is it keeps traffic a little bit safer during the setup period. But once the festival's open, guests are able to come from any direction.
Gotcha. Okay.
And where are we having them exit? Because that was a huge problem last time.
Yeah, that is a great question. And I don't have an easy answer yet. I'm not sure whether I'm going to share my screen really quickly just so I can point at some things.
Because we ended up using the exit that's by Timor Cafe
Yeah,
and the
that's what I
Nash
was thinking.
Simmer. That's where everyone kind of came out, and that did work. But we had to have volunteers there that moved the barricade to let them out. So right there where your cursor just was, there's that parking barrier. Yep. And then we had actually like 4 people that would move to let traffic out, but not let traffic in.
So if we were to use this as the exit, do you think that would be best for sort of this area D to exit that
Mhm.
way? And then area C
To exit
to
to
exit
195.
this way? Yeah.
Yep.
And then area A can exit this way.
Yep. And I think that if we get the same amount of volunteers to man those barricades, I do not think that that would ever be an issue. It would actually almost be a job that we could easily assign people to, and then they
Yeah.
could stay there. And I think that I love the idea of moving the entrance. I think that from a safety standpoint, from a check-in standpoint, from a time standpoint, traffic standpoint, I love it. I think that makes the most sense to have it be that area, because they can kind of come up Charles Way and kind of come in that back way. And even if there was some sort of a delay, other cars can get around and go behind by the Oaks. I mean, not the Oaks, what is that road back there? That road. Yes. So I think I love that idea. Last year people were, mad at times, like, how do we get out of here? Where do we go? So I think if we were able to, when they pull in and say, oh, your area A, set your booth up and please exit towards the back by Husky Pizza, the old Husky Pizza. I think it makes sense. And that can literally be part of when they check in. Oh, your area C, you're going to exit, down by 195. Your area B, you'll exit by CVS.
What do you guys, for those of you, because I know we had difficulties with the HQ booth last year, what do you think of this spot?
What were the difficulties with the HQ though?
Well, I mean, just the big one was in setup and the number of volunteers and getting them more easily kind of situated.
Is it better to have, I mean, my only thought is that the HQ booth was more centrally located before, so that right now it's like deep in area D. I don't know if it's kind of easier to have like your eyes on the different areas by being kind of where it was before.
And I was gonna say too, I think it helped with where bathrooms were, because when the volunteers got their shirts,
Yeah,
they went right in and they changed really quick in those bathrooms. It also kind of, because there's that natural, like, oh, is there like an awning over there? Or the way that the shadows on the building were, it was a lot more shaded. It wasn't right in the
Yeah.
sun.
yeah. It was comfortable there the whole time.
Right. I was like, I remember it being kind of nice. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was chaotic, don't get me
Right.
wrong. But
Yeah, I don't
And-
feel like it was, I think it was nice if you're like, I think being able to say we're at the Nash Simmer, it's a nice landmark that people can find really easily. I think I didn't feel like the booth felt poorly located, more so just that I think the like influx of volunteers at specific times caused it to be a little bit chaotic, but I think we can handle that. My only fear is that it's like a little bit, is it difficult to kind of point out where it would be in area D just because you don't have a specific place to point to?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's where, this is why I wanted to have other people look at it and talk through it. Because we definitely can move back where it was right in front of the Nash Simmer.
You're
Or if
right,
there's
Sarah,
another
about the
spot.
bathrooms. I feel like it's really nice to be able to be like, oh, the bathrooms are right in there.
Yep. I think too, I think Andrea and I are gonna kick some butt with these volunteers, and I think it's just gonna be naturally, I think, more organized. To stagger when they come, to have actual checklists to hand them of job duties versus, kind of where do we need, what do we need, already knowing how many people we need at a certain place. I think if that just became more organized overall, then I don't think there'll be as much chaos in that area.
No, I think that's all logical and good. So I mean, I'm game to move that back to the same location as last year.
Do you think any extra signage is going to be needed for the festival entrance to be moved there? Or do you feel like the packet will be clear enough for activity booths?
I think we'll need to be clear in communication, both in the packet, and I think this is something to reiterate in the text of emails, as well as at the activity booth meeting, just really giving it to them as many times as possible for those booths that have been coming year after year. But then we might want to have a volunteer at the corner of CVS to help direct people back. I don't know if because I know A-frames are really, we're maxed out in the way that
Yeah.
we use A-frames. So I don't know if we could do another sign.
Well, if we're going to have volunteers at those exits anyway along 195, they certainly could just be like, oh no, it's
Yeah.
down, go up ahead, take a left down Charles Lay. And just let those volunteers know ahead of time, like, this is direction you're going to give. And to be honest, if you're putting it in the emails and we're saying it at the meeting, it's only going to be a handful of cars that don't get that message, hopefully. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Don't quote me on that, even though this is recorded.
Great. Were there
Yeah,
any
and
other
then-
things that you, oh, go ahead.
We're on the same page. The
Yeah.
only other thing I wanted to point out on the map, the site plan itself, is I've increased the number of craft booths based on the space that we had last year and kind of our planned number. I really think that we could fit quite a much more than we had. And it was a combination of both limited numbers that applied and safety in what we were dealing with last year. But I think this year we could just fill that spot.
That's really exciting. I feel like that's a unique draw.
Yeah.
So it would be great to try to
I
grow
I
that.
think too, if we really wanted to grow that, maybe make some sort of a graphic that can be posted on social media to a Mansfield like website or up on our our page just to recruit crafters, because a lot of crafters make their own crafts. So if they knew maybe in the summer, oh yeah, this is coming up, and they can kind of build a stock and then be part of it. Because I think that one of our big focuses last year was to try to get more Mansfield based. It's possible.
No, it's a great point. I know that we did do social media marketing with it, but I think that the idea of having a specific graphic, I think it's a good one.
Was there anything else on the site plan, Denise?
Only if anybody has questions. Other than that, it's pretty consistent to last year, which is fairly consistent to the 2019. So.
And how did you, I know we were just talking about kind of using social media for the crafters to post like graphics and things like that to draw them in. Are there other ways or like groups to connect with within Connecticut that we can start approaching to kind of get it on people's radars? Do you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the, there is one resource, I believe, well, I'm not going to search for the exact name, but it's specifically a craft fair resource for vendors. They send a monthly newsletter as well as several emails throughout the month. They have an active social media, and they're already posting for November and December next year.
Wow.
So that's one reason why it's in the packet to review today, because I do want to get it out there once we're good.
That's great.
Beyond that, I know we did some connections specifically to Facebook groups of crafters. I'm hoping, because last year, just because of the unknown, we really didn't start marketing this until May into June. So I think hopefully starting now will really give us a leg up to be able to find people.
That's wonderful. I would say if you need any help with that, let me know if I can help connect with any of those groups.
Definitely. Thank you.
Denise, just maybe you do this already, and forgive me if I'm just repeating something that everybody else already knows, but I know when I've done the townwide tag sale in Mansfield, you know, if you go at the senior center when they have it, there are a lot of people there that have like self-made crafts, like they crocheted, or even the trailer homes at, what is it Jacobs or Joshua, the ones on Route 44. They actually, when they do it and participate, there are a number of handmade things by the residents there. So if you want to just kind of like make sure to advertise there, again, that's somebody in Mansfield that you'd be getting.
Well, that is a great suggestion, and we can definitely connect with the senior center on trying to connect this to kind of, I'm not sure. I'll kind of think
Jensen's.
of whether.
It's Jensen's you're referring to. It's now owned by Sun Communities.
So yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Great. So if we want to move on, Ginny, do you want to discuss the new initiative for reusable food service containers? And I think in the Denise sent along the text that you drafted.
Yes, and I sent an updated version today.
I'm muted. Okay, I thought numbers would be helpful to look at, like what kind of quantities we're talking about. So yeah, so last year I had mentioned, is this something that the committee would like to explore, which is instead of using compostable items, using washable items. And the whole reason for that is that the life cycle of a reusable item, the carbon emissions, the resources that are used, the water that's used over the life of the product is far less when you reuse than when you recycle or compost. In the case of what the festival's been doing all along, it's been we've been composting the plates and bowls that are supplied to the vendors that are signed up for the festival. So, so I was thinking, you know, pilots are always great because it's not an entire commitment. It's just saying, let's try this out. So what I did after I wrote up the first iteration was I looked at our count, what is actually in stock from previous years. And I did that after I sent the first thing to you. So right now we have, if you look at the bottom of that page, we have a lot of 6-inch plates, very few 10-inch plates. It was really Domino Pizza that used the 10-inch plates, and they weren't there last year. And bowls, we use wooden forks and spoons. So the bowls and the 6-inch plates are paper products. They're Chinette type brand products, and they have PFAS on them. So anything that is like a paper plate that doesn't have the plastic coating on it, a lot of them are sprayed with PFAS, which are forever fluorinated compounds, which, you know, are hormone disruptors for all of us. But, you know, that is something that we've been using and have, you know, I've since learned that this is, you know, paper plates, unless they're PFAS free, are not a good option for composting. So that's another reason, you know, to move away from compostable items. So, you know, would we want to start with reusable plates or bowls? And maybe we don't have to do a whole entire order. Maybe it could be a portion of what's used this year. And we would use up what we have in stock. Yes, not great. They have PFAS sprayed on them probably. But I gave you some ideas of the cost of bowls, you know, and I based it on like how, you know, what kind of quantity we might need for this year for the purchases. So I estimated 500 bowls, and I estimated 500 plates, which is probably just a portion of the plates that would be needed, you know, depending on how many people participate. Last year it was on the lower side. It might be higher this year. We might, so there is, if you look at item number 2 on both the bowl and plate examples, there's a company called Preserve. They make polypropylene, that's plastic. All of these are plastic. You know, I couldn't find stainless steel, which is really the most ideal. They make polypropylene plates and bowls. They look like they're lightweight. They're not the most expensive. They're not the least expensive. Well, the 7-inch plate is the least expensive, but I contacted them and asked them if I could have a sample, because my only concern, they look like they're really lightweight. So my only concern is that they'll look like they're disposable. And, you know, what is perceived oftentimes, you know, determines how things are going to be used. So I could ask for samples if I get the go ahead from this committee. The other thing to consider is that plastic-free restaurants does provide financial assistance for ramping up restaurants for using reusables. So we conceivably could apply to see if we could get some money to go toward the purchase of these items. I looked at previous purchases, and you know, every year I've just supplemented the inventory, so it's not a full-blown purchase of items. But you know, we spend about it's about $500 a year. So if these are used over and over and over again, then we're saving money within, you know, maybe the next couple years, we'd be actually be saving money. Okay, so that was one thing. Are you interested in piloting it? You know, if so, you want me to look at these preserved polypropylene plates and get a sample and see what they're like. I thought that all waste stations would have a return area, you know, which could just be a little table, or not even, it could just be a basin, you know. And then I think that food vendors should be prepared for this, like with first communication, like that we're doing this, we're trying it out, and that's what we're going to supply with you. So we want to have something at your station that explains, you know, what people do with these bowls or plates, whatever it is. Also, I thought early communication to participants about this low waste move and why, you know, why would you add this complication to a festival? And so I reached out to Yukon Dining Services. I thought, well, you know, the one dining hall's right there. And I got a no, we were not going to do that. Just a flat out no. So then I contacted the superintendent of schools, who talked to Stephanie Deason, who's the food service manager, and they're okay with having dishes washed at the middle school. I don't think they're offering to wash the dishes at the middle school, but we could use their facility. So I guess what that means is that I'd be washing the dishes Monday morning at the middle school. And yeah, you know, I could just load them up in my pickup truck and keep them, you know, in the pickup truck over the weekend, and whatever. I don't have a problem with that. You know, I think though, if it's fairly seamless, then I think we'd want to establish a better mechanism, you know, going forward. But for a pilot year, it's like, yeah, that's fine. And then the last thought I had was, there is a little video for the waste station volunteers, and so that would just need to be updated. And I did talk to Eco Husky at the last festival about, would they be interested this year in putting together video. You know, I think it might be nice to have a student made video, since many of the volunteers that show up on Saturday are Yukon students that have had no preparation. Like, they don't sign up ahead of time, they just show up and say, what do you want me to do? You know, so have this like 2 or 3 minute video. Here, look at this. This is what we're expecting of you at the waste stations, and, you know, go from there. So that's my preliminary exploration of this, and I'm looking for your feedback.
Jenny, thank you for doing all this research. This is quite a feat. And so I appreciate kind of you starting to look into this, because this, I think, could be a really exciting opportunity for us moving forward. Do anyone have initial thoughts about the idea? And then maybe we can discuss some of these points, like the logistics of volunteers and washing and things like that.
Yeah, I would definitely reiterate also a big thank you. It's nice to sort of see it laid out like this, because I think it makes it seem a little bit more achievable, like, rather than it being kind of such a big project. And thinking of it as a pilot, I also really like. I'm glad that you talked through, because in reading it, the idea of not cleaning them over the weekend, I wasn't sure if that was sort of part of the long-term plan, and I was like, I don't know if we want to always, but if it's a 1-year thing, then that to me seems a little bit more doable to then work toward a better solution.
Well, one thing we could do is we could ask if there's a food service person that would be willing to wash dishes for an hour or two, but it means opening a building and it means hiring somebody, and that somebody means it's taking an hour to, probably 2.5 hours out of their time on a weekend. And that's probably not going to be realistic. I mean, the other thing is that, yeah, so I guess there's some other logistical things, like they could be washed that day, but like, I don't have time to do it. By the time I'm done cleaning up, I'm like done for the day, So,
You know,
yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say quickly, I actually wonder, as you've been talking, it's just had me thinking a little bit. I wonder if we approached restaurants as an in-kind sponsorship,
Yeah.
we could even sort of offer them benefits for them helping us with cleaning these dishes like that.
I was
could be
wondering if
their
that might be
contribution.
like, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Are there any, I thought though, a lot of the restaurants, like at the downtown, they're not equipped with dishwashers. I thought that was one of the things that was done initially to reduce water consumption. Is that, I think Dog Lane Cafe has a dishwasher. Do any of the others though?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I would definitely need to ask around.
Okay, yeah.
I
Yeah,
wonder-
that would be great, then just shuttle some dirty dishes over, like, let's say hypothetically Dog Lane Cafe, just shuttle them over to them and they'll do them and it's done. Yeah.
I wonder if we're able to utilize some of the volunteers to help, even if it's not on the day of, but to help on Monday or whatever, to schlep them or, collect them. And, I feel like because we had such a volunteer interest last time, could we plan ahead to utilize people, even if they weren't done that weekend, but that Monday. So that's not just you filling up your car and driving them somewhere to wash. It just feels like there were so many capable students that we should be able to utilize to do that type of work.
Denise, quick question. Is Grill 37, the old Grill 37, the blank space that's in there, are there still restaurant equipment in there, or is it completely empty?
Girl 86.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do know that the property owners are actively trying to fill all of the spaces. So I don't think that we should try and, I don't.
No, I was just wondering if they had a dishwasher there, it might be, I don't know. My other thought on this is that if it's a pilot year, I think we should really try to gather data on how successful this could be. Like, I agree, we should maybe use up some of the stuff that we have. And maybe since we don't have a lot of 10-inch plates, maybe that's kind of what we focus our $500 on this year, is to buy those plates, know how many we have, know that we're putting 400 into circulation. And then at the end, really counting and seeing how many of these got back to us, how hard of a process it was, so that we're not going forward and buying the bowls and the small plates and the big plates and the silverware, and maybe using what we have on hand. We might need obviously more forks and spoons, or I mean, I don't know, we can figure all of that out, but really making this a pilot to gather the data to see how hard it is. Because Ginny, I think we're all with you that we want to see this happen. I would love to see this happen. I think it would be groundbreaking across Connecticut to say, hey, look what this town did in this, thing, to have reusable plates. If they can do it, anyone can do it. I think it's huge. But I think you're right, Ginny. I would hate for you to be the one that gets so overwhelmed with this, with the washing. So let's see if we can do it on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And really see how much work goes into this.
I also recommend, because like basically bullet point number 2 here about at all the waste stations, having a place for the washables, that really having them in very convenient locations with clear signage, just to make sure that people are putting them in those recyclable container, or those receptacle containers, versus throwing them out because they're not really seeing where they should go, or there's it's not in a convenient location where somebody's now carrying it for 10 minutes rather than just tossing it. So I would think, definitely having those receptacle containers with great signage, just to be sure too that we're getting them back.
Yeah, I was thinking signage is definitely going to be important for this pilot project, especially if we are just piloting for a specific, bowl, or if only some of the businesses are trying it out. There's going to be a mix of that paper and the plastic. So to make sure that people aren't getting confused and just throwing everything away, we really want to probably start thinking about signage early, and then maybe have some extra volunteers, manning those stations to make sure that people aren't just throwing everything away.
I would almost put them like in their own little location versus right next to a garbage container, because people, they may get confused. I would really make it maybe its own color, its own sign, and its own locations, so that it's really, really clear. Because I, working in the school, I can see how many things land in the different receptacle containers we have. Like, the liquids are in with the fruit, and the plastics and the trash, and I know we're talking kids here, but in general, if people aren't looking, it's just going in.
I wonder
Yeah.
if maybe if it would be smart to pilot with like a few of the restaurants specifically, because then at their booth, they could have like extra signage and could like tell people as they're taking their food, like, please remember to put this in the, washing bin or whatever. I don't know if it would be easier to manage piloting with a few of the restaurants, or yes, I think we can think about how, like Sarah was saying, to make it more manageable for this first trial run, so that it's not, full blown pilot program.
Well, there aren't that many food vendors that actually participate. So I think, like, for instance, if the group decided on plates, although the 10-inch plates really aren't used, it's the smaller plates that are used, to tell you the truth. But let's say the group decided, let's go with bowls. Then it might be Yukon Dairy Bar that uses the bowls, and Wing Express puts a lot of their food in a bowl. I'm trying to think of some of the other food vendors. Who else, Denise? I don't have that piece in front of me. But
I feel
anyhow,
like one of the Mediterranean restaurants had a booth one year, like Aladdin or Gansett. I feel like it
okay.
was falafel.
Doesn't the Indian place always do bowls, I think, for a lot of their
Yes,
stuff?
they do. Yeah. Yeah, that business that you're referring to, Christine, went out of business. So yeah, but they used to come faithfully every year. They were Greek, I think. So, okay, so how, what are your thoughts? How would you like me to proceed? Do you want me to get samples from the preserve company? I mean, I know what the melamine bowls and plates look like, because we have them at the town hall. So I know the size of those, but I'm just not sure about the preserve. I'm thinking the preserve might be easier to manage because they might be lighter. But
Yeah, I think samples might be good. I mean, because one other question that's not on your form, and I think it's mostly probably because I know the airspace, we don't have a big storage area. So thinking about where, if we have 500 pieces, how much space that's going to take up, and where we're going to be able to store it year to year.
right now, things are being stored in the basement at the town hall. So I would anticipate that would be where they'd be stored, in place of the paper plates, and they're stored on a pallet. So
But that being said, then I think again, I'm thinking a little bit in advance here. If we store them in the basement, then also to be prepared to wash them before next year's. We'll be back at the middle school, everybody hand washing them, but keeping that in mind, that each year, even before use, they'll have to be rewashed if they've been sitting in storage for a year. So it's just another task added to it.
Yeah, okay.
Ginny, I know you mentioned that you talked with Yukon Dining Services. Did you just talk with that one specific dining hall, or did you talk with the head of dining services?
So I emailed Kyle, and he referred me to, I think it's Robin Tracy, who's the interim dining service, in place of Dennis.
Dennis, okay.
Yeah. So,
And
she
they said like no.
No, yeah. And she responded quickly. I really appreciated
Yeah.
that. And I appreciated a clear answer too. But she said that they don't, well, first of all, staffing has been an issue, which, is completely understandable. And also, that they won't do something for an outside organization. So, or an outside group. She didn't say organization. So anyhow, so then I just looked to the, but I really like the idea of looking to a restaurant, like an in-kind service.
Does E.O. Smith have anything like what you're talking about? I know you mentioned the middle school, but I'm just wondering because E.O. Smith is right across the street. I also know that a lot of the seniors always need like volunteer hours. So I don't know if this could be like a thing where we get E.O. Smith students to help bring those dishes in there and wash them ahead of time and then wash them in the end and bring them to you. I don't know if E.O. Smith might be possible.
When I talked to the superintendent of K-8, she did say that the washing facilities weren't as good as the middle school at E.O. Smith, but I know, I could still inquire about that. Yeah.
Well, and that would even, if we use E.O. Smith as the alternate site, then there's not even large transportation. It's like,
Yeah.
That was exactly what I was thinking, Andrea, is that, if they're already kind of open to us using their space for our alternate D, maybe they would be open to have us. And then if that was the case and we're getting these food and we have these basins and we have these volunteers, we can have them positioned over there. And I mean, ultimately, yes, we would have to probably pay for a custodian to be there and for a worker to be there. But I think that would be manageable. I've had to pay those costs for things before, and it's not astronomical. It's not something that, I mean, we really would in the long run be saving money and doing something that is really groundbreaking, I think, in Connecticut. I worry about the workload on you, Ginny. I'm going to offer to help, and I will always be there to help, but I just feel like it's a lot. It is a lot to manage.
Yeah, I think if it's not perceived as this is my thing, but rather that this is what the festival, is about, then I think the spread of people helping with it can, make it not my thing, but rather the decision of the festival. So,
and you're right. There are a ton of students that need hours that are seniors that go to that school. And it's like a great volunteer base that we could tap into, that we don't necessarily tap into for the festival itself. But that some of those kids might think that's really neat to be back there washing dishes at their school. I mean, I don't think it's a far-fetched idea.
Okay. I will check into that. If anybody knows, I guess it would be Stephanie Deason who'd be in charge of the kitchen there. So.
Is
she
Region 19's kitchen manager as well?
I'll check. I'll check it.
I know that for like our work celebrations, like when we get turkeys and stuff cooked, they do cook them there. So I do know that we do have a tie there somewhere. I just don't know the complete logistics.
You don't know if it's Stephanie who you
I
communicate
do
with?
go through Stephanie
I
to
think then she's
request
in
any
charge.
food. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, if that is an option, I think that that's just an easier option as well, just from where we're located and from a volunteer standpoint. Like, hey, this group that's over here that you're all set, we're gonna ask you to walk across the street to E.O. Smith and help with dishes. Like, I think that's pretty
And
feasible.
I wonder if we actually reach out to the principal there. I mean, I know I've been in contact with him about volunteers before, but it might be interesting to kind of frame it as a bigger initiative and have E.O. Smith come on as like a sponsor by allowing us to use their kitchen and helping us coordinate these volunteer opportunities. You know, it's not just about washing dishes, but it's about kind of like you were all saying, that this is a groundbreaking initiative. And you know, they could frame it as a larger project for the students. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know E.O. Smith has often worked pretty closely with us, Denise. So, you know, and I know they've been really supportive of the Ballard Institute because we're right across the street. So I don't know if it makes sense to try to bring kind of like the whole school on board rather than it just being like, hey, we need your kitchen space. Because then maybe they might in kind have the custodian there for the weekend, you know, or really try to get students to volunteer.
I wonder even if at EO there is like kind of like a Go Green club. You know, they always have different types of clubs and, you know, especially in this town, they're all about this. So there may even be an actual club we can ask about, you know, if that's got 10, 15 kids in there, you know, they'd be more than happy to jump on board for something like this.
There is or has been an environmental club. So yeah, it's yeah, it's a possibility.
Again,
Yeah.
they're just all different ideas and
Yeah, yeah.
paths to try to take.
Great. So again, thank you for doing all this work. It sounds like, Jenny, you'll get some samples and maybe we'll be able to have, you know, some feedback on those by the next meeting. And then we'll try to follow up in some of these other areas. But I would say if you need help making connections, let us know, because, you know, I don't want it to feel like it's only your project, but, you know, it's our project.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anybody that would like to contact E.O. Smith High School and talk to the principal.
I can reach out to Principal DiLoretto.
Okay.
Yep, I can do that. I actually
Thanks, Sarah.
have a meeting with him next week. So.
Do you? Awesome.
No, this week. Oh God, I don't even know the date. This week. I have a meeting with him this week.
Okay.
So I will be seeing.
Ginny, is there like a brief description of kind of the mission or goal in general that Sarah would be able to share with him? I mean, I know there's this document, but is there something that might be helpful to kind of give him an overview on kind of what we're trying to do with this festival?
Like why we're doing this? Like why on earth would you go from disposables to washables?
That might, I'm just thinking,
Earth, Ginny, we're doing it for our Earth. Why on Earth for our Earth?
Right. Yeah.
wow, I think we just got our motto. Thank you.
No, I don't have anything written up, but I could, you know, as to the purpose of this.
I can do it, Jenny. I'm going to shoot him an email tomorrow, and then when I see him in person, I'll just touch base. So it's good.
Okay.
I know that we've talked a lot about this, and I can use some of our language. But
I was going to say,
Okay.
it's actually kind of just adding on to that low waste ideas and strategies page that's in the booth document. So I think you could probably pull some language from there and say, you know, we're now expanding our strategies to include this additional element.
Yeah.
Great.
I will do that.
So just being aware of time, the next item on the agenda was the booth application, which is also in the packet. Denise, were there specific elements that you wanted us to look at?
Yes, yeah, and actually just thinking about the time, the craft booth one is really the one that's most urgent. We can always come back to the activity booth and the food booth next month to review some of the details. But on page 6 of your packet, last year, one of the things after we reviewed all the craft applications, one of the things that we talked about was trying to really be as specific as we can in the outreach so that people know exactly what we're looking for, what types of things we're looking for. So I did a little outreach or a little research for other craft vendor applications that are out there, particularly in the Connecticut area. And I pulled some language. I also just kind of adapted some of our own. So this page is really the one I'm definitely looking for some feedback. Like, is this clear for what we're looking for?
And if I remember, Denise, was the issue kind of around language related to kind of what types of goods we were looking to be sold, that idea of kind of like handmade versus
Yes,
like something
yeah.
that was print, you know, like,
What did we mean by handmade?
yeah.
That
okay.
was because, yeah.
So a tie-dye shirt would be fine, is what is being suggested here.
Well, I'm definitely open to changing this, but yes, in regards to sort of if the craft is the art of tie-dye, and we'll have photographs, so it won't just be someone making very basic tie-dye. If someone were making beautifully designed tie-dye and that was their art, then we would have the right to say yay or nay to that. One of the things that I added in here, and I know it's italicized, is that only original work, no products from kits. That was some of the language I tried to put in there to clarify.
I think that's really good, Denise. I was looking at that too, and I almost wonder if it should be bold and not just italic, or maybe red, something to really call attention to it, because people don't read.
And I also think, Denise, it's fair to put in this language that ultimately it is up to us to decide, and that none of those things are accepted. And beyond that, it's still an application. We still will be going through these products and deciding. And I think having that out there, just again, in that same line and that same bold, because you're right, maybe someone has a bunch of tie-dye clothing, but we realize right off the bat, it's definitely manufactured and they bought it in bulk. And we're like, right, it says it in there, but we're going to say no because we have the right to say no. And I don't think that's being mean. I think that's just following kind of what we had talked about last year. And I think that, you know, we had some really great vendors last year, and I'm pumped to see what we get this year. But I think that having them know that the decision ultimately is up to us.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a line saying that very explicitly. Probably with the same, like with the italics. Do you think that, Sarah? Should it be grouped with the italics?
So you're thinking kind of where after it says are not permitted, and then it might say something like all final decisions, you know, will be made by the committee, or some kind of, I don't know if anyone has good language, or if Denise will just think of something. Because I think, Denise, you do mention kind of the committee may limit the number of vendors that sell similar merchandise at under number 5, but it feels like it needs to be a little bit stronger. Great. So Denise put in the chat, final selections will be determined by the committee.
Yeah, and maybe that goes under number 3. Applicants will be reviewed in order in which they were received, and that can be like the last line of that one there.
Do you think will be determined or will be chosen by the committee?
I think determined.
I think determined sounds good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm doing like 5 jobs right now, so I'm like texting because I have another meeting later. And yeah.
Yes, because you don't want anybody offended if they're not chosen.
Chosen, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other thoughts on this specific aspect of the application, the craft booth selection?
The only other new thing here is I did a little research on the state of Connecticut, what it takes to be able to sell food that you've processed in your home kitchen. And so that's the language about a cottage food operation. So that's just if somebody wanted to sell handmade jellies or even baked goods, they just have to be, I don't think it's a full certification, but they have to fill out an application and be approved as a cottage food industry.
Is that
Oh,
something
sorry.
like when they submit their application, maybe you already have it, as part of the application that they have to fill out, would you say like, if you are going to sell food, please attach your certificate or whatever? Should that be something that they submit with you to prove that they have
Oh my
it?
gosh.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good point, because we do ask for their tax ID number. We can ask for that too.
Is this something that we might want to share with folks that participate in the farmer's market? Because I know a lot of people make their own goods and sell there.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So one of the things last year, because our event runs at exactly the same time as the farmer's market, we just tried to be really diplomatic, because we didn't want to feel like we were trying to poach people who would normally be selling at the farmer's market over across the street, basically. But yeah, no, I think that it's definitely worth a try to kind of reach out and share this and say, for anyone who's not planning to attend the market, we have additional opportunities.
Is there a way for us to incorporate the farmer's market into the festival?
That's what I was gonna, yeah, that would be really,
So we do in marketing, we include the farmer's market in marketing. We include it, if you go through the website, it is included as an activity. The problem is that over many years, I would say probably from before I started, definitely from before I started, there doesn't seem to be a desire to move the farmer's market across the street for the day. Well, in this case, it's been Saturday since 2019. So we can definitely work with them to see if we can continue that relationship, continue those cross promotions and including it as an activity. And it's always worth asking. I definitely don't mind sort of putting the ask out there. Like, what do you feel? Would you like to come here, or would you like to have a satellite booth or something? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm even looking.
oh, I
I'm
think
so sorry.
Where are the
Sarah,
festival
I-
entrances to?
you're
I'm
back
sorry,
now,
Sarah,
Sarah.
can
We
you
lost you.
repeat that? Yeah, you
I
froze
know,
just a little bit.
Internet is the worst lately. It's been doing this all the time. That parking lot area in front of T-Mobile and the Nick, it's not Nick Baum or whatever that is on the other side, is open. And so I think we could extend a hand to our fellow farmers market and really bring them over. How amazing would that be?
That would be so fun.
Because I feel
And
the people who go to the farmers market know and love the farmers market. The people who have never seen the farmers market will be blown away by the farmers market.
yeah, no, I think that's a great point. So yeah, I definitely don't mind reaching out and sort of having that conversation again to say, we have this open spot, Wilbur kind of on Wilbur Crossway, and kind of going from there.
I think the thing that's going to be probably the most important point will be their access in and out, set up and clean up. So.
So Denise, do you feel like you have enough feedback on the craft booth application to at least have that ready to go out?
Yep. Yeah, I can definitely take all these suggestions and update the file, get that ready to go shortly. I would say, especially looking at the time, I'm comfortable if we want to pause, if you guys want to, over the next few weeks, when you're bored one day, pull out the activity booth or food booth and just take a look. In these cases, the only things I did was I tried to simplify and condense the text. That was the big thing. I was like, let me try and pull, because it gets wordy. So I tried to make it as simple as possible.
So maybe would it make sense, an action item for all of us, that for the next meeting, we come with suggestions for edits or anything like that?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Are there any other items on the agenda, Denise, that you want us to address? We still had brainstorm ideas for activities. I think that's something we can all work on and discuss future meeting locations.
Yeah, the last thing, if we can have a quick conversation, especially since we're all together, what we want to do next month, whether we want to get together in person or continue on Zoom.
I like Zoom because it allows me the flexibility of it being at home, and I have livestock, so it's a plus to be at home between work and work.
Agreed. With me, it's a childcare issue. I have a 4-year-old. He has to be picked up from daycare, and my husband does not get home till he's not even home now. So for me, it's easy to have him in the other room and me be here. And I have a meeting after this that I do via Zoom. So it would just be much easier for me to be in one place.
I'm flexible.
Yeah, me too.
Me as
All right,
well, but it
well-
sounds like Zoom might be a good way to go. Is that okay, Denise?
Yeah, absolutely. I am very flexible, but I just wanted to have the conversation because all of the committees are having the conversation now. So it just wanted to check. I think continuing on Zoom sounds great. If anybody at another time ever wants to get together for a cup of coffee with everybody, we can get together separately outside of actual meeting time.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so we'll plan on meeting via Zoom for our April 12th meeting. Okay, so I think we can adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
How about a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and I think we're all in favor. So everyone have a great evening, and we will connect back on April 12th.
You too. Yeah. Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Denise.
night.
Emily.
Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you guys so much. And Sarah and Andrea, if you guys want to stay on, I'm just going to stop the recording.